Welcome to Eat, Pray, Love, Heal, Repeat. I am your host, Letitia, the social architect, and this is another space for your healing playground. We are here to talk about all of the things that lead to healing, restoration, and all that comes with being well as you learn to take your unique journey towards wholeness. This podcast is an authentic embrace, soothing realness, and conscious space to support the necessary transformation, spiritual awakening, and healing within and around you. So fall back, listen with intention, and open your heart and mind as you come into conversation with me on our continued journey to wellness. Hey y'all, this is Letitia, the social architect, here to assist you on your journey to wellness as you learn to utilize the integration of your mind, body, and spirit. Welcome to Eat, Pray, Love, Heal, Repeat, episode number 2, where we'll be talking about the emotional pain body. So today we are again looking at the emotional pain body, and this concept is not something new. It's just something that I want to introduce you to. It's a concept that is often overlooked, but it is crucial to understand and address as we are trying to navigate and manage our emotional and mental health. So our emotions are an integral part of our lives, and we experience emotional pain, and it can have a significant impact on our overall well-being. So in this episode, we will explore what the emotional pain body is and how it is linked to physical pain and how to identify and address it. So first, let's talk about emotions. What are they? All right. People often use the term feelings and emotions all in the same breath, but often speaking as if they are the same. So let's first start off by defining them. So emotions, they actually come from the Latin word ex move. It means to move out, to agitate or excite, right? So that's what the word ex move means. So this tells us that it is a bodily response that means in motion. Okay. This is where our English word motion comes from. So emotions bring about movement or action, right? Because they're in motion. So have you noticed that when you are emotional, you have certain thoughts associated with the response? So when you become angry, if you sit still long enough and reflect, you will find that there was a thought attached to the anger. So in addition to thoughts, you experience physical urges or agitation within the physical body. So you find that with the anger, you may want to hit something or somebody, right? So that's because there is this physiological component to the emotion. So we have a triggering event, right? So let's put an example to this. So we have a triggering event. So the event is I got fired. All right. So we got fired from a job. So that leads to a thought in our brain. Okay. So now we're talking brain activity. So that leads to a thought in our brain. And the thought might be, so I got fired from my job. Thought might be, oh, I hate my boss, right? Boss fired us. I hate him. So that leads to a feeling. So we got the triggering event, which is I got fired. We got the thought, which is the brain activity. I hate my boss, right? And that leads to the feeling of anger, okay? Which leads to the physical response in our nervous system, which is agitation. Okay. So you see how that kind of flowed. So you have this event, then you have this thought, then you have this feeling, and then that leads to a physical response, right? So this tells us that emotions are a full body response, right? And that makes sense, right? When we think about motion, if something is constantly in motion, then it has to be interacting in more than one part, right? So there's this exchange, there's this flow, and that's what emotions do. So when you try to put emotions and feelings uh, in the same definition, do you really can't do that, because emotions is kind of it's all of it, right? It's a full body response that just happens to have these names on it um that people have kind of intertwined with feelings like or bodily sensations, like the agitation and the anger and the sadness and the joy and the happiness. They kind of coupled all that and said, oh, these are your emotions. Well, we can't forget that it's a flow. It flows from something happening to actual thought, to the actual feeling, to the bodily sensation of it. So I wanted you to understand that, because you need to understand that when we talk about a full body response, and when we later talk about the emotional pain body, you'll understand that concept more. So emotions are a full body response. Now, it is the thought and feeling and disposition to act when it comes to emotion. It's the thought and feeling and the disposition to act. I say disposition to act because it doesn't always lead to a negative action, right? There was always an action, whether it is the result of it ends up being a more of a reaction than a response, because it's a difference. When you react to something, you're really acting without thinking. So you're acting impulsively. When you're responding, then you're allowing yourself to sit with that thing for a little bit, think about it, and think about how you want to approach it, right? So that is the difference between reacting and responding. And what our goal is to do is to respond, right? Okay, so emotion is complex and integrated. It's this integrated system within us, right? This integrated system within us comes and goes. And this is what we call ebb and flow. So you may have heard that term before. I use it often. You'll often hear it on this podcast. So when it comes to emotions, they ebb and flow, and it's important for us to allow it to take its course. So when we talk about ebb and flow, it just goes here and goes there. It moves, right? It's constantly changing, and we have to allow it to do that, because that's what they're supposed to do. And an emotion is not supposed to stay stagnant. All right. That is important to understand. Emotion is not supposed to stay stagnant. The result of a stagnant emotion can lead to chemical imbalances, causing mental illnesses and symptoms from mental illnesses, and which can also lead to physical problems. Um, so by the time that the physical manifestation of a stagnant emotion shows up, that means it has been there for a while. Because by the time you start feeling the tension in the body, or the tightness in the chest, the migraines, the headaches, things of that nature, stress has been sitting in your body for a while. a long while because it takes a while for stress to actually impact the physical body. Um, and it also depends on the intensity of the impact. And that all depends on how you, as the individual, the human being, takes on the stress, right? And we got to understand that when it comes to stress, stress is not something negative. I think we constantly, and that I say the same thing about anger. When we often, I know as a therapist, um, I found other colleagues and other therapists trying to help clients eliminate anger, get rid of anger. I didn't do that. I didn't agree with that. I didn't try to make my clients get rid of their anger. I actually want them to keep it. Anger is important. Anger is an important emotion that we should all experience. What the difference is how we respond to the anger, right? Anger itself is just a message like any other emotion. Anger actually uh is a feeling that keeps us safe. It's an alarm, right? It's almost like a flag to let you know that something is up. What's going on. Let me see if it's something that I need to check into. What is this that I'm feeling? Where did this come from? Do I need to do something about this? So it's an emotion that can be helpful if we use it the right way. And um, so yeah, that's important. And when it comes to stress, the same thing. When it comes to stress, we want to make sure that we don't see stress as something negative because what stress can bring about a level of adrenaline to the body that our bodies need to keep us going. Right. And it keeps us focused because and I'll talk about it a little bit when we talk about the nervous system. But what it does is it channels us, right? It channels us into a goal to get accomplished. And so that is nothing wrong with that. And what happens is we end up bottling this stuff up, and the stress is attached to a lot of heavy, what a lot of people consider negative events. And we don't know how to handle it very well. So therefore, it causes us to hold it because we don't know what to do with it. So that's when it starts to become a problem. It starts to cause disease. Um, so if you listen to the pre-launch um, episode, you heard a little about my journey and how I suffered from GI problems for years. And I stated that some of that was due to eating habits, but it started with stagnant emotion that I allowed to hold on to, allow myself to hold on to. And I did not know how to allow it to move. I didn't know. Nobody taught me. And that was probably just due to my parents not knowing how to themselves. Nobody taught them. So everybody's kind of bottling it up. It happens and you just find a way to move on, push on, get over it, pray over it, and let's move on. Well, believe me, I'm all about praying, but God gives us tools. God gives us wisdom. We got to know that there's things that we can put in place so that we can remain healthy, right? So in my younger years, I was experiencing strong emotions, right? Such as anger and sadness and fear, etc., that I did not know what to do with. Okay. And that was for various reasons. And there were these narratives that I held on to that started to make me sick. So, sick mentally and emotionally and physically, sick, which is where the GI problems started to arise. So, I isolated, crying spells, issues with appetite, etc. And this all led to a chemical imbalance within my body. So I grew up in a time period where it was not common for parents to talk to their kids about how they handle their emotions. I mean, uh, a lot of my um, a lot of my years, primary years, were in the early '80s. And so, yeah, you parents were not, most parents were not just talking to their kids about how to handle their emotions. And I wasn't given the room to express my emotions because, children had their place, and the place was not talking to adults in that way. So if I needed to express emotions in a certain way, but so I wasn't given room to ask questions. Uh, I saw and heard a lot that hurt me. And this caused pain for me, emotional pain. And so, pain that I didn't again know what to do with. So what did that turn into? It turned into suffering. And then that's where I landed. And that's where I stayed for several years into adulthood, late adulthood. So, that gives you an idea of how, what emotions are and how they come to be. Now, I want to talk about how our bodies are made up to be able to keep us safe, right? Our bodies are made up in a way that the body is such an awesome thing. And that's why it's so important to take care of it. That's why I'm a proponent of the integration of it when we are talking about life and mental health and spiritual health. It's important that we include our bodies because nothing else would matter if our bodies weren't working, if our bodies didn't exist. So we can't forget it. We can't forget the body. So our bodies were created. We have components to keep us safe. So we have something, as you may know, called the nervous system, right? We are made up. Our bodies are made up of two systems, and one is the nervous system. And it has two main parts, the nervous system. So it has the central nervous system, which is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. And then we have the peripheral nervous system, which is made up of nerves that really branch off from the spinal cord and they extend to all parts of the body. And so when we talk about the automatic nervous system, this is a component of the peripheral nervous system, right? The peripheral nervous system and the automatic nervous system. The automatic nervous system is a component of it. This part of the body, when we talk about the automatic nervous system or the peripheral nervous system, that regulates involuntary physiological processes. So what do I mean by that? That sounded like a big word, but really it means that part of our nervous system, which is why it's called automatic, or autonomic. I'm sorry, let's say automatic. Autonomic nervous system. It includes heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, digestion, even sexual arousal that is in that part of the body. So the autonomic nervous system, it controls the body processes like blood circulation and all of that, breathing, urination, heartbeat, etc. So the autonomic nervous system is named that because it works autonomously without a person's conscious effort, right? It doesn't need our effort to work. It just does its thing, right? Now, things that we do, that we put in our bodies can have an impact on it, but if it's going to work without us trying to do much of anything. So The two, now, remember I said that you have the nervous system and then you have two parts of the nervous system, which were the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Now, also said that a component of the peripheral nervous system, which regulates the involuntary processes we just went over, is it has the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system is a component of the peripheral nervous system. There are two types of autonomic nervous systems, okay? They are the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. These two are very important when it comes to our mental health. This is the part where if I had my spine model up, I would be showing you where the location of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic autonomic nervous system is located when we talk about the spine. Because our spine is so important when it comes to how we cope with stress, how we exercise the body so that it doesn't hold on to a lot of the intake, a lot of the emotions and things that it gets that the body takes in throughout a 24-hour period. So the location of the sympathetic nervous system is in your lower spine, right? It's like your lumbar. And it's the part of the autonomic nervous system that is, it's kind of in your lumbar region. I think I said that. And its primary function is to stimulate the body's fight or flight response. It does this by regulating the heart rate, the rate of your respiration, and more. But what I need you to understand is that sympathetic nervous system is our body's fight or flight response. Okay? That is located in our lumbar, which is our lower spine, right? And it's really in that portion, it's down in that portion of the spine called the sacral portion, and that's near the pelvic area. And that's kind of where our colon is and our bladder. And so when we are, and I say this, it's important to understand the body and understand what's going on where, especially when you start to utilize yoga, right? Because in yoga, you are going to learn breathing techniques, what they call pranayama. And when you learn those types of techniques and various poses in asana or the physical exercise of yoga, you start to learn how to breathe through some of those areas of your body where you know certain things are taken in. So, like I just told you, with the sympathetic nervous system, that's where our fight or flight is, and it's located in our lower spine. Then if we start to have some issues with anything down in the pelvic area, then we know that where we need to start concentrating when we meditate and breathe into that. And I'm going to talk about later when we talk about the breath and what that does to the body. But let me go to the parasympathetic, which is another part of the autonomic nervous system. Now, the parasympathetic, it primarily stimulates rest in our body. It allows our body to rest and digest. That's pretty much what the parasympathetic does. It's it's there because our bodies need to rest. And the parasympathetic autonomic nervous system is located between the spinal cord and the medulla. So um, you are, once again, I'm telling you this and talking to you about this because we'll talk about it more later when we start understanding more about the exercise of yoga and why it's important to exercise these regions of the body, um, and learning again how to breathe in those parts. But as it relates to keeping us safe, the body is designed to take us in the fight or flight, right? Which triggers the sympathetic nervous system response to an event, right? Um, that is perceived as stressful or frightening. Okay. So once that event is over, then our bodies are designed to carry us into the parasympathetic nervous system where we rest. So that is how it's supposed to go. So an event happens and it's an event that, say, a car accident, all right? We get into a car accident. Of course, a car accident is stressful. It's going to trigger us to keep ourselves safe. So our body goes into fight or flight. That that sympathetic nervous system kicks into gear to keep us safe. That's why a lot of times when people are in distress or they're trying to fight for their life, uh, they continue to live on. They get to the neighbor's door to knock, or they're able to wait till somebody comes and save them before their body just collapses. It's fight or flight. So fight or flight response is the way our bodies are built. It's supposed to do that. But when the event is over, it's supposed to take us to the parasympathetic. There's a switch that's supposed to happen so we can rest. We can rest and digest what occurred, to bring our bodies back to stabilization, right? So digestion is important to the body. If we do not allow our bodies to relax and release, then it will get backed up, which is why the body becomes diseased and ill. All right. So the problem that we have is not always, is that we always are living in an anxiety producing state. That's where the problem comes in. If we are always living in an anxiety producing state that causes our bodies to remain in fight or flight mode, causing chemical imbalances, like mood swings, appetite changes, physical ailments, body pain, like I said before, headaches, migraines, constantly throwing our heart rate up. And you find people, people go to these emergency rooms often thinking that they're having a heart attack, possibly a stroke. And when a doctor is not, doctor's not going to see stress. So you're going to find yourself continuing to go in and out, complaining about the same thing, and doctors saying, we don't see anything. And you're feeling it, but they're not seeing it. And so when a doctor is not able to help, we get frustrated. But we got to understand that a doctor is not going to see stress. You can't see stress. You just can't. And so it's just coming from those symptoms as a physical manifestation that has come from you placing your body in constant distress over and over and over again. And it hurts and you're suffering. And so that's what's happening. And so I know on my own journey, as I continue to be on, a wellness journey. But when I initially started, I took the time to go through understanding the biology of the body, because it allowed me to understand pain and how to better manage it. So the emotional pain body Again, so that you're clear, the emotional pain body is the physical manifestation of emotional pain in the body. Our emotions are energy in motion, right? We already talked about that earlier. Our emotions are nothing but energy in motion. It's flowing throughout the body. And when we experience strong emotions such as sadness, anger, or fear, and I call those strong emotions because we as human beings don't take those in the same way that we take in happy, joy, love. Those are emotions that are taken in differently. So I call these the sadness and the anger, disappointment. I call those strong emotions because we take those in differently. So they can manifest, and they manifest as tension, as discomfort, pain in various parts of the body. And so this is another important part of breathing. The breathing techniques that originated from yogic practices, and it's learning how to regulate the breath, right? And this is what you learn in yoga. You're learning how to regulate breath so that you understand how to better manage it in the body. Okay. There is already a life force within us, which is breath, right? God placed that in us at birth. If we didn't breathe, we would not be alive, right? So it can also be called power. Like, so we got life force. When we talk about breath, we got life force, we got power, we got energy. And when it comes to our emotions are energy in motion, remember? So earlier I talked about how we as human beings allow ourselves to get stuck in an emotion, or about things that have happened to us in the past that we are having a difficult time getting over or letting go. Since our emotion is energy, and an emotion is supposed to move, what happens when we don't allow the energy to move? What happens when we don't allow the energy to move? Well, what happens is it gets stuck, and we experience these strong emotions, like I was mentioning earlier, the fear, the anger, the sadness, and and then its manifestation, which is usually some type of imbalance that can lead to mental illness. Um, the link between emotional and physical pain is complex and multifaceted. And emotional pain can manifest as we said earlier, physical pain, and physical pain can trigger emotional pain. So, for example, if we are experiencing grief, we may feel a tightness in our chest or a knot in our stomach. And on the other hand, physical pain can also trigger emotional pain. Think about people who deal with constant chronic pain. It can cause you to become depressed. So, or hopeless or frustrated, right? So this is a two-part series, okay? So stay tuned in to episode 3, because we're going to go more in depth in how we go about identifying and addressing the emotional pain body. We will also talk about the importance of understanding what feeds the pain body so that we can better manage it. Last episode, we talked about the importance of starting to think about how we are going to be thinking about the blueprint and design of our healing playgrounds. So you all should continue to think about that and start taking notes of what your healing journey toward wellness is going to look like. And so to add something to that call of action that I already gave you as it relates to designing your blueprint to your healing playground, um, I want you to take some time over this next few weeks to reflect and journal prior to our next episode. Because our next episode is going to be coming out on the 28th, right before we go into the new year. So I want you to, you got some time, I want you to do some reflection and do some journaling. Keep a log. Keep a log of a few things. I want you to keep a log of, and you can do this in columns, right? One column, triggering events. Keep a log of triggering events. Then identify the thought that followed that event. Okay. So first you're going to have the triggering event. Then you're going to identify the thought that followed that event. And then you're going to identify the feeling. So what did you feel once that thought came? Did you feel sad, angry? Or what did you feel? Agitated? And then I want you to identify the physical response, the feeling in terms of physically, headache, tension, etc. Then note what you did with that feeling. How did you respond? Okay. So you're going to be in one column. First column is going to be your triggering event. Second column is going to be identifying the thought. Third, identifying the feeling. Okay. Fourth, identifying the physical manifestation, headache, tension, etc. Then you are going to identify, lastly, how did you respond? So your response or your reaction. Did you respond or react? And what was that? What did that look like? So just see what comes up. Okay. See what you can come up with. This exercise, it will assist you in being more mindful of triggering events as we proceed in understanding how to better manage the pain body. All right. All right, y'all. We get ready to go into our inspirational quote. But before we do not forget to subscribe. Do not forget to share. Okay. All right. So here it is. When life gets blurry, adjust your focus. When life gets blurry, adjust your focus. All right, y'all. Let's get to work. All right, y'all. This healing playground is closed for now, but continue working on the design of your own. And remember, outside of laughter, you need to eat, pray, love, heal, and repeat it all over again.